Welcome, everybody, to a very special edition of the Brenton On Tour Podcast. I am joined by a very special guest, a fellow Canadian, stuck in America, I guess.
Yeah.
I don't know, stuck in America, but Renee Paquette, how are you doing down in Las Vegas?
I'm great. I'm doing good. I don't have any of your Vancouver rain right now. We don't get a lot of rainy days down here, but yeah, I'm doing good. The weather's starting to get nice and cool out here, starting to get a little bit of crispness in the morning and the evening. So it's nice. I definitely miss my Canada full 4 seasons, but I take what I can get.
Define cool in Vegas.
Oh, let me see. Let me look at my phone and see what it says the weather is right now. It's probably like, oh wait, I clicked on my thing. It says 82 right now, which, I mean, it is the middle of the afternoon here right now when we're recording, but in the mornings, it's like, in the morning, it's about 60.
I got a lot of friends in Vegas. So one of my favorite coffee roasters is in Vegas. And so I love going down there. I was supposed to go down there before the world shut down again to, get some coffee going for this podcast and a few other things. And well, here we are. So
what's the coffee that you like that's here?
So one of my past guests, a guy named Jeremy Gersey, he's the real Mocha Joe. I don't know if you watch Curb Your Enthusiasm.
Oh, yeah.
So he's the character that Mocha Joe is based on. He used to be Jerry Seinfeld and Larry David's personal barista. And so they built this whole thing. So he is like, he kind of got to start doing, he was like the first guy that was doing luxury kind of coffee on movie sets.
Oh, wow. That's so cool. I love that.
It was really cool. And then so he set up shop in Vegas and he's got this really cool way of roasting and all the rest of it. And he's a really great guy. So it's called Jeremy Gersey Coffee Roasters. And he's in Vegas. Great guy. And,
I'm actually going to check that out. Definitely.
Yeah,
okay, good.
If you're a
I feel like,
fan.
even though I've lived here for like 5 years, I feel like there's so much stuff that I don't know. There's so many like undiscovered things that I have not a clue about. So I love finding little nuggets like that out.
Yeah, I love going down to Vegas and discovering that. Most people go down for the gambling and the craziness, but there's some great coffee down there too. And almost every musician and person lives there that I know, and it seems to be a hub.
Yeah, it's great. It's also a great airport to fly in and out of. That's why for my husband and I, when we, he was living here when we first started dating, but when I moved out here, I was like, well, it's the least easy airport to get in and out of. We were on the road all the time. So that was like a very big factor.
What about now, Vegas? What are your thoughts? Obviously, we follow your posts on, being a Knights fan and a hockey fan in general, but what is Vegas still holding charm for you, or is it changed a little bit?
Oh, I don't know that it ever really held a charm for me, so to say. I think I've always been far more of a city person. I love being in Toronto. I lived in New York before I moved out here. So I really kind of had my heels dug into the ground when I was first out here, being like, do I like this? I don't know. But now that I've gotten used to it and I have all my like stuff here that I really like, I mean, just from like the simple regular life shit from my grocery store is great. I've got a gym that I really love. Just, all that stuff that just makes day-to-day life easier. So that part of it's nice. Also, it's much cheaper to live out here than it is in New York. So that's always nice.
Yeah.
But yeah, even just seeing the way like downtown Las Vegas is coming together, it's really kind of being built up. There's a whole new vibe and scene down there that's really, really cool. I think, whenever we get to the point that the world can open back up again and get back to some normalcy, I was like really finding some great pockets from, you go to First Friday, which is a great like arts event that they do in the first Friday of every month downtown. And it's all painters and everyone, selling their trinkets and all these things that they've been working on, all their projects. So that happens. And then the first Sunday, first Sunday of every week or every month is Market in the Alley. And it's kind of the same thing, but, during the daytime, they've got like cocktails and coffee. And yeah, it felt like a little bit more of like the artsy side of the city that I could kind of.
It's funny because almost I would say a third of my guests are from Vegas.
That's so fun. I'm going to go back to episodes and I'm going to get some of the tidbit.
Yeah. Half of almost actually all of Slash's band, except for Miles, is in Vegas, and they've all been on. I'm sure you're a Canadian kid, so you're familiar with Age of Electric and Todd, and Todd's down there, and Brent Fitz is down there. Frank Sidoris, the guitar player for Slash, is down. Everyone's there. And
I think I just realized that one of Slash's guitar players is he works out at the same gym that I work out at. I was like, oh, cool. I don't know his name. I'd have to.
It's interesting. If he's really tall, it's Todd. If he's not, then it's Frank.
He is like skinny, youngish, long dark hair, which I'm sure describes a bunch of those guys.
That's Frank.
Okay. It's Frank. Great.
Yeah, there
Frank.
you go. So good guy. He was a guest on here. Actually told a really great story in the music cast portion of this. And this series that I've launched right now is the life cast. So it's a bit more, it's funny. He told a life cast kind of story on that music cast, but it was like his journey, to become Slash's guitar player. Wow. This kid who grew up in Vegas and how that came about. And then I just realized all the guests that were coming on, like all had some kind of connection to Vegas, and they all talk about going downtown and they never go to the Strip. And it's funny. And I never do that either. When I go to Vegas now, maybe there's a little bit of like, we'll go and poke around, but it's really, those guys take me to like the good spots. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. I mean, unless there's like a certain restaurant or something that someone's like dying to go to, but otherwise everything you need is off the Strip. Yeah. We only go like when we've got family visiting or you've got like guests in town that want to go do like some Strip stuff, but neither of us are like into gambling. We're not big partiers. So yeah, it's pretty rare to find us out on the Strip.
It's funny because when you live in a place like that, and almost all the guys that I know that live there and girl, like anyone, their wives, they're all the same. They're like, well, when you live here, everyone comes here, and then you've got to be the tour guide and the tourist, and it can be a little bit crazy. But that's like anyone that I guess that goes anywhere. Sure. Vegas is a destination, right? Saskatoon, not as much.
No one's looking to tear it up in Saskatoon unless
not usually. So we, I really appreciate you making the time to come on here. I know you're super busy with everything. I mean, you've got to be one of the busiest people on the planet just from witnessing your social media side of it, but let alone, trying to probably settle into a bit of a normal life and then getting requests like this to come on. So I appreciate joining the life cast on this side of it. Connection wise, I mean, I know your dad real well, and we work together running concerts all over the world. So that's him in Toronto, but I get to work with him when I'm in Toronto and all the rest of it. So really, really nice of you to do this. So thank you. I appreciate it. One of the questions I did actually want to ask you about was, growing up in that world, like, you obviously in media and you've come through all the different channels that you've come through, but you were exposed to concerts probably from being a baby, right? So all the way through, what do you remember from that time, like growing up around your dad, around the biggest, shows in the world and all the rest of it? What was your first experience or memory of that?
I have so many vivid memories of that. And, I mean, obviously it definitely shaped a part of me to being like, ooh, I want to be on stage and I want to be able to perform to some degree. But for me, the very first memories I have are from when he was touring with Anne Murray. And we would, be backstage. My favorite thing was going to the rehearsals. I loved going to rehearsals. Just seeing everyone kind of paired back, working through the stuff. I loved watching Anne and her backup vocalists. I love watching them harmonize. There's something about that just I was always really drawn to. And then also just even seeing road cases everywhere. That's something that I just always remember. And then when I was on the road with WWE, obviously there's road cases everywhere. And that's just something that like I'm so used to just seeing as like a thread through my life is just dollies of equipment, all the technical side of everything. I also used to really love rooting through Anne Murray's all of her like accessories, where she would have like a top hat that she would pop out and it would get really big, or she had like a little magician's wand or like a little kazoo. There are so many things that I just love to root around through, and just it really opened up my imagination as a kid for sure.
It's funny, my dad actually played with Anne Murray a bit too back in the day. I have my music background went back into that realm as well. So that's a funny connection. Yeah. People talk about the 6 degrees of Kevin Bacon, but maybe it should be the 6 degrees of Anne Murray, right? When it comes to that, especially in Canada, because we're probably more like 4 degrees of everyone.
Of course. Yeah. Actually, my very first time ever doing anything on camera was doing the Anne Murray Christmas special. I did that when I was about 4 or 5, something like that. I got to do that twice. The first time it was, who were the guests on the time that I did it? I know the second time it was like Rock Voisine and the Bare Naked Ladies. But anyways, I loved doing that. And I just like that. Those moments were always so like cool to be like, ooh, let's get dressed up. And there's cameras. And as much as everybody was always so like bored and hated it, I always loved those moments.
Did that lay the foundation for you as to I think I want to do this then?
Yeah, I don't even think, so much that I even realized it at the time, but I think it definitely gave me an idea of like, oh, that's something that people can do. But also realizing that everyone in my family that worked in music, from my dad, my aunt, my uncle, they've all worked in the music industry for so long, but none of them were performers. So to get on like the other side of feeling like, wait, I have stars in my eyes to go do that other thing, sort of made me feel a little bit silly to say that to them, because they were on the production side of it. And I thought maybe they thought that I was like maybe a little ridiculous for wanting to do that. But I mean, they all really supported me so much.
Was there a moment, like, did you perform then, or was it, were you performing then? Were you taking the various things like trying to sing or try to dance or all these different to carve out your way, or were you in front of the mirror and pretending you were on the news? Like what kind of started that? I was definitely
never pretending I was on the news. That was never anything that I wanted to do.
Yeah.
But no offense to anybody in the news. But yeah, it was, I remember standing in front of, before the doors would open for a show, after they had finished the rehearsals and getting the shows all set up, and being able to stand there on the stage. Can't remember if it was Massey Hall or if it would have been the Sony Center, but yeah, being able to stand on that empty stage before anybody came in, and just feeling like what that was like to stand in a theater like that and see all the empty seats. And then also on the alternative side of that, of standing side stage during shows and being able to see this like full packed house, and watching this person who, like, I'll use Anne Murray as the example for that, but she was always, I knew her literally since I was born. She had sent stuff to like the hospital when I was born. We would go to her house when my dad was working and stuff. So to know her as Anne Murray, but then to see her on stage and turn into the Anne Murray was a different thing too. So I think just to be able to get both sides of that, to like see the real person and then seeing her kind of put on the show, that definitely opened my eyes to a lot of, just to what that could be like. But I didn't really start, I think it was more comedy that I was always drawn to, because I love to make people laugh. I loved saying things that I should not be saying and getting the reaction of like, oh, okay, I should not have said that. It was wrong. It was bad. Like, whether it was like cursing or making fun of something or whatever, but that always seemed to be a bit of a crutch of something that I would lean on, was the comedy side of things. And that was also another thing for my dad too. He was big into watching SNL, Kids in the Hall, all that stuff. So I think that was really kind of more when I was like, oh, I like doing this. I like being like a bit of a ham. I like getting that reaction out of people.
So you were talking about being in the empty theater and stuff like that. So for me, I don't know what your dad's little things about the job that, drive him. For me, it's always been, I'm always out there when the house lights go out. So I've never missed a show, the beginning of any show I've ever done, because, when the house lights go out, everyone's getting exactly what they want at that moment. And including, Raw or SmackDown or anything like that, the excitement builds, and then the house lights go out, and everyone at that moment, they could be there for the first time ever at a live experience. They could be there, their 50th show in a row, whatever it is, but everyone's tied to that moment when the house lights go out. So I make sure that I'm out in front of every single show. And the side to that is I also make sure that 30 minutes before doors, when the arena is empty, I'm sitting in the middle of the arena on the floor, looking around and sort of saying like, all right, we're going to do this soon, but we got to this moment.
Yeah.
All of us together got to this moment just before doors, the calm before the storm. Did you pull any of that sort of like standing in the empty arena stage into your routine as you started, especially doing more live events and all the rest of it? Is there something that you definitely like, every single Raw I had to do this, every single SmackDown I had to do this, or every single, like, before I went live on air with anything, I do this? Is there something that you pulled from that time to kind of to it?
Not so much in the sense of like finding those moments of stillness. For me, it was more so about finding the moments to have more silliness. Because that just made me more loose. I didn't do it so much in WWE. Like I would maybe just in my head think about it, but I would think about it especially when I first started, like when I was working at the Score in Toronto. I would love for like anyone that I was working with, if I was like co-hosting with someone, to like blast some Queen, have a time, dance around, get out some energy, and then go out and do the show. And just like as a friendly reminder to myself of like, listen, we're not out here curing cancer. We're doing a TV show and we get to have some fun. So let's just have some fun. Don't take everything so seriously. If you fuck something up, you fuck something up. Who cares? It was really about getting into that who cares space. Cause that for me is my sweet space, is when I don't give a shit.
Did you bring that with you? Did you notice a change in Backstage, even with WWE or anything that you've been involved in? Have you always brought that into it?
I've always tried to. But I honestly sometimes found it a little bit difficult doing that in WWE, because I always felt like everything, as much as it's professional wrestling and you think that there would be more fun to like getting out that fun energy, it didn't really feel like that. Everything did feel a lot more serious and higher stakes. Or I don't know if it's because more people are watching, or that wrestling fans are so intense about the product that you want to make sure that everything's just like dead on. But yeah, I mean, it depends. I've also worn so many different hats in WWE that I would kind of approach each of them differently. From when I was doing kickoff shows for pay-per-views, I could bring some more fun to that. Also, I find when I'm the one anchoring a show, I like to bring that energy to it, because I want everybody else around me to have that ease. I want everyone to just have fun. When people are having fun and enjoying what they do, it's a better product entirely all around. Everyone just walks away from it feeling 1,000 more times better. But when I was doing commentary, I was just so in my head and couldn't get loose to save my life some days. But yeah, I think, I don't know. I never really had like a ritual per se of like, I have to do this. This needs to happen, other than like, make sure you go pee before you start the
show. To that end, when you're talking about the kickoff shows or something like that, are you able to produce them yourself, to the exception of like, I know that there's, people will talk about wrestling and how it sort of lays out, but the kickoff shows, when you are building something out and bringing that energy, and they're saying, Renee, just make it, did they say, make it your own and everyone will fall through? Obviously you got to hit your points and hit your segments, but do you get more rope there in that scenario to kind of run it? Or is it still sort of like, be Renee within these rules?
It's be Renee within these rules.
Okay.
And yeah, it was case by case. It depended on who was producing the shows. A lot of the times I was working with one producer, and him and I were pretty much always on the same page. But, when I first started doing the shows, it was very much, these are the rules, stick to the rules. And then once I had earned their trust on who I was on screen, then they would kind of loosen up on those a lot more, just in the sense of like hitting times, being able to throw to a package properly, getting all the graphics in right. There's just so many different things to think about that have more rules than they probably need to have. But that's just how WWE kind of operates. There's a lot of rules and some sort of like rigidness in the way that things can be produced that makes it a little bit difficult to work within those confines. Sure. Yeah.
You were part of
everybody, but that is how. Yeah. But I've done shows like that where it's like, when I especially when I worked for the Score, that was very much go out and do what you want to do and fill that time and have the conversations, especially when we were talking like, the pre-production before going out to do shows was like, what happened that we want to talk about? Let's cover this, this, and this, gather the information, and then go down and just like shoot the shit and have a great time. And I loved that. It was so nice to just like let loose 1,000% and do something that you feel really proud of. That's where you work.
Do you find that that's where you work your best, like within your best self, is in, when you have that freedom?
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah. I mean, listen, I think most people probably do. It's like the more there's like rules and rules and rules, that all of a sudden you kind of forget what you're doing out there in the first place sometimes, or like worried about being reprimanded for not adhering to so-and-so or whatever. So yeah, I definitely just like go out and do it and we'll make it great. And if we need to change something, we'll change something. Doing live TV can be a little bit sticky depending on what you're covering and what you're talking about, of course. But I definitely love the just let it all fly. Sure. And then make some magic.
This is a life cast series. So what was growing up like for you? Busy? Are you a school head? Like, are you just focused, or was it like skateboarding and crazy and snowboarding and madness and concerts or what was growing up, Renee?
I was definitely busy. I was very energetic. Like, I was like the kid that was bouncing off the walls all the time. I hated going to school. I hated it. And not for any reason of I didn't like the people there. Like, I always had lots of friends. I had a great experience at school within what school provides you, but I've always been that person, especially when we're talking high school. Once I had sort of figured out exactly what I wanted to do, I just wanted to hurry up and go do it. And everything else was a bit of a waste of time to me at that point, that I would skip school, and I skipped school a lot. Because I lived very close to my high school, my last year or two of high school, I was a block away from my high school. So I'd be like, I'm going to go home. F this. So I would walk home, and I was just, especially at this time too, I was really geared towards the acting.
Right.
Things. That's really what I wanted to do. So going home and just watching movies and just getting just sort of wrapped up in different characters and the process that people went through. I loved spending time at home just watching movies. I still do. I mean, that's still the main thing that I do. But yeah, I definitely skipped school a lot to sort of get lost in my dreams a bit.
Is that something that you're going to put on a shirt? It's if you want to make it like Renee, skip school as much as possible. Go home, watch movies.
I was just so hell bent on working. Even when I was when I was a little kid, all I ever wanted to do was work. I can remember being 5 or 6 and getting all my toys that I was not into anymore. I'm gonna have a garage sale because I need some pocket change. I just always felt like I needed to sell stuff and
sell rocks.
It totally setting up a lemonade stand, or I would set up a hot chocolate stand outside from a frozen pond that people were skating on and try to sell hot chocolate. I loved having garage sales. And then once I had a couple jobs before I was old enough to have a job, at a nursery, a garden center. So I would work there and just prune flowers and work on an old school check-in, I can't think of the word for it right now. I'm dumb. Anyways.
No, okay.
I was just always working. I love to work, and I love to be able to kind of move forward and get my own independence. And then once I hit 18 and was done with high school, that's when I was hey, right away, I want to go to Second City, and then I want to start taking these acting classes, and I want to start auditioning. And that was all I could think about.
What was that moment for you then, that you actually felt like this was actually leading to something? That you went, this might actually happen.
I think so. When I first started before I went and decided to go to Second City, I initially thought I wanted to go to school for broadcasting, because I was just I was trying so desperately to find, I'm how can I just get on TV? I don't know how to get on TV. So maybe if I go to broadcasting school, that seems like a direct route. So I remember going to, it was Sheridan College and York University and Ryerson, all these places that had these broadcasting programs. And I went to their little, their orientation for the classes. And I remember being in a class, or the orientation group, there's 12 people or whatever. And they go around the table and ask everyone why they wanted to get into broadcasting. And everyone had these things of I just love the technical side of things, and I want to be in production. And my dumb ass goes, I just want to be on TV. And the class fucking laughed at me. They were this they thought I was such a douchebag for having said that. But I was I don't know. I mean, that's why I'm here. I want to get on TV. I don't know how to do it. This seemed like a way that maybe I could do it. And then I did not get accepted into any of those programs. So then I went, when I was hey, well, that's not going to happen. I'm going to go do Second City. But yeah, I think when I started to realize that I was like kind of on to something. So I was always the youngest one in those classes because I was like the earliest really that I could take those adult classes. But they do like an evaluation at the end of each level that you do. And, you know, a lot of the times it was like, just like having like instructors tell me that I had like sort of like a promising like brightness about me, or that I had this quickness about me, but that I think I was very capable of sort of commanding the room at 18, like having these like adults and helping to lead a scene or come up with the ideas and just sort of take the reins. I've always sort of had that, not like a control freak kind of way. I like to be in control in that. I like to take the reins when other people are being very passive. That is like not me. I like to be like, okay, this is what we're going to do. Let's try this. When people are like not into like, you know, if someone wants to volunteer for something and like even like in high school, like who wants to read out loud? I'm like first up there. I'm like, I'll do it. I love reading out loud. No problem. So I think I like to sort of take that center stage in that aspect. And then when I was doing acting classes as well, I was studying with through David Rotenberg, who's a great acting coach out of Toronto, and Bruce Clayton. And they had both pulled me aside at one point, and they were really encouraging of everything that I was doing. But then I got into hosting instead, and that's all really worked out. So, I mean, it was, a lot of, I didn't really hit too many like giant roadblocks other than the sense of like not booking gigs and going to auditions and kind of eating shit or not, you know, just not doing great in that sense. So, but yeah, it was definitely encouraging to have people that were my instructors and teachers at that time take a liking to me.
I'm not sure you have any time in your schedule, but are you interested at all in acting now or doing anything in that capacity?
You know? I've always been very interested in that. That like I will always say like that's sort of been my first love in the sense of like performing. Because to be completely honest, like I actually don't love public speaking for like what I do. It's not something that I enjoy. It stresses me out. So like if I'm on camera doing something is like one thing, but the idea of like acting and making things smaller and more intimate and just sort of the art that goes behind that is something that I've always just been very, very drawn to.
An acting fan, obviously, in all those movies that you skip school to watch, but what's your like, you know, is there a go-to, or do you study acting now, or do you just like the magic of the movie?
I don't study acting at all anymore. I mean, if I lived somewhere else, I probably would. There's just not a lot to offer in Las Vegas in terms of like film acting, because it's all, 4 hours away in Los Angeles. So there's not a ton out here. I was getting together with one acting coach out here a couple of years ago, just because I've always had that itch, but it was one-on-one classes. So what can you really do other, you know, when you're not with a group and kind of doing some more extensive classes and whatnot. But yeah, I would love to kind of get back into doing that. Yeah. I feel like I didn't answer your question. Sorry.
No, but I mean, hey, it's like, I mean, you've taken it. You said you've worn a pile of hats. So
I go on a tangent and then I forget.
It's okay. You've worn a pile of hats, and you know, are you going to just add another hat to that level and keep going? Our world is obviously shut down all the way around. You've been experiencing live events through that process. And how they kind of were trying to pull it off. My industry, your dad's industry, we're all still trying to figure out how this is going to go. Obviously, we're last in line for a lot of things. But what have you taken away from this kind of attempt at production versus where you think it's actually going to go? Are we going to be stuck in this for a while from what you've seen, or are you finding that it's working right now?
I think we're going to be stuck in it for a little while. I think that it'll, you know, as we've seen things start to advance, I mean, from like my side of things, you know, doing the Zoom shows and being able to do stuff online has been amazing for people. I think there's part of it that's interesting in the sense that we're seeing people just at home. We get to see, and people are so nosy. I'm nosy. I love seeing inside someone's house. I'm like, oh my God, how do they decorate? What are they wearing when they're just at home? What do they look like when they don't have a full makeup team? Like that shit I love. And I think other people are really drawn to that too. But I think as we continue to kind of grow and develop and change, I think that we're going to start seeing, like, the room I'm in right now is going to be turned into like more of a proper set. It's not there right now by any means, but that's the goal for me, is to turn this into something that just looks a little cleaner, get a better camera. I just got a great microphone. So just trying to like up the production quality side of things. Because I think that things will start to like grow and change in that regard as people sort of figure it out and different programs become available and whatnot. On the music side of things too, it's such a bummer for everybody in that industry to look at. It's heartbreaking. It's awful to see, like, I was even talking to a comedian the other day, and he went and did a show the other day at like a drive-in. And I know that's been a thing that's been kind of happening here and there as well, of doing the drive-in concerts and drive-in comedy shows. But that's got to feel like shit for the performer. It's something. It's something.
It's something. It's a band-aid, but it's certainly not going to rescue the business. You need for it to sustain, you need 5 to 30,000 people in a building, and
you need people drinking, you need people eating, you need people buying merch, you need all that stuff. I think in the way, again, even in the music side, to kind of pare everything down and make shows feel more intimate and more personal, there's something there that people will always love. But as far as generating money the way that it used to, it's definitely a far stretch from that.
It's the experience too, the experience of everybody, the experience of the live fan, the experience of you, the performer, or I'm sure I can't even imagine what it was like around that time of just come in, wrestle, leave, come in, do this and that. But like even these, I just helped produce an online concert for an artist a couple months ago. And that was like 3 days of getting it ready to just have it look good, to perform into an empty theater and have it go out. It was like, hey, I'm working, but this isn't working.
It's not the same.
It's not the same.
And I know that we all have to make our own personal shift of what our expectations are and what we're kind of getting out of it, and finding new ways to do it. But I will say, for WWE, the way that they have done the Thunderdome, I don't know if you've seen any of it.
Looks really cool. It looks really cool.
Really cool. And I think at first was a little bit like, what are they doing? That's going to be cheesy. There's no way that's going to work. And over time, it's like, it's something, and there's faces out there, and there's people participating, and people are still being safe. You can watch it without any pants on, so that's a bonus.
And the funny thing is like, I looking back on how they designed it out, obviously there's all sorts of people and age groups that watch it. But if you look at it from a wide shot perspective, in my perspective, it looks like a video game.
Yeah, it does.
Right. And so everyone that's watching is playing video games. So it just kind of fits into that. Well, this is what I was doing on Friday, but now they're live action. So
this is just more of like the part of the social dilemma. Right. We all just live in a video game. None of this is real.
That's right.
Crazy.
Which pill do we want to take?
Exactly. I know. It's not.
No, this is, that's great. I appreciate it. What are you doing to keep busy right now? So what's happening? I saw you were working you're a hell of a cook from what we see.
Right. I am.
And so what's going on there?
I've been cooking a lot. I will say since my departure from WWE, it's been, 2 months now, 2 months. And I feel like now I feel better. I think at first I had this very weird energy of like, I got to go do something. I need to be doing something right now. I don't know where I'm going. I don't know what's going on. I felt like, I pulled the rug out from myself, in a sense, to shake some shit up and figure out some new things and come up with some new challenges and goals. But definitely at first I was sort of having a lot of weird energy. I was driving my husband crazy. He's like, can you just like sit down and read a book or like chill the hell out? And I'm like, I need to work. I was like becoming a crazy person. But now that I've distanced myself, I'm really like settling into this new space. And I feel like it's really what I wanted to do, is like, after, being on the road, doing that for so long, and you give so much of yourself to something, it's nice to kind of cocoon yourself for a minute and like re-energize yourself and work on that energy and what you want to do with it. And Yeah.
We don't get a break. I'm 7 months a year on tour.
Yeah.
So I have to fly my wife and kids in if I want them to, and I'm sure you see that all the time in that world, but flying them in and then traveling around and doing stuff. And so this time at home is the first time in, 10 years to 12 years of just constant touring where you get this opportunity to actually not necessarily unplug. I plugged in and started a podcast, but the idea is that we unplug just from that and remove it from our brain. And some people are still working full time and haven't had an opportunity to do that. I speak to those people, friends of mine that are driving trucks or working in their industry never stopped and they can't wait for the long weekend. I'm like, we're on a long weekend since March. It's a long time. Right. So it's a weird kind of feeling. So it's interesting that you have to deprogram yourself. You have to unplug the Renee that you were.
Good about it. And that's something I really wanted to do. And honestly, I thought I would have an easier time doing it because I was itching to be like, I need to break away. I need to go do my own thing. I need this like palate cleanser. And it was a little bit shocking to me that it wasn't that easy for me to just let go. But now that I have, I'm like, okay, cool. I feel like just reconnected with myself in a way that, that I was really, really craving. So anyways, aside from all that hippy dippy shit, I've been cooking a ton. I bought a smoker. So I've been smoking a ton of things. I've been working out a ton and I've been reading a ton. It's anything like I've just been at home hanging out and like eating and reading, not really drinking so much. I've got a lot of water, some teas,
sure,
coffees, trying to keep it all clean.
Yeah, but it's still a busy house though. Obviously you got a busy husband and all the rest of it. What's the life of Renee right now? Like life now of Renee. Obviously it's settled, but then it's also busy.
Yeah. I mean, right now I'm also about to launch my own podcast and just kind of working on what I want that show to be, what I want the set to look like. Mm-hmm. It's actually really funny now, like even just like getting, like I've like picked out wallpaper and I've got paint colors. I've got all these things that I'm working on, but it's very funny to be like, I just want to do my own thing. And then I start doing it. I'm like, oh my God, I don't have to check in I don't have to ask anybody if like, is this print okay? Do you like this color? I just get to like make all these decisions myself, which is incredibly liberating. It's really, really cool to be able to do that. I've not been able to do that in a very, very long time. So that's definitely been nice.
Podcasting is fun and you'll just be obviously a natural at it, just being able to tell the tale and you got to, carve out what that's going to look like. But the great thing about you is that you don't, and like anyone that's come from that world and, you've already got a whole bunch of people following you and stuff. So it's great to be able to just say, all right, I'm doing this now and this is what it's going to look like and bringing people along that journey with you.
Yeah. I guess
it's exciting.
The goal is always hoping that they do come with you.
They'll come with you, Renee. Don't worry.
Like figuring out the whole, like, when fans know me just from wrestling, are they going to be interested in what I'm doing outside of that? So I hope that they are. And I'll still always keep like a wrestling thread. I mean,
sure.
My husband's always wrestling. He's always doing that. So whether he's just popping on to shoot the shit or I'm talking about what's going on, what else is happening in the world of wrestling, but I'll always keep a thread of that in any show that I'm working on for sure.
Any timelines on that?
What's that?
Any timelines on that? Or are you just working it out still?
Ideally November. I actually recorded my first episode the other week. I'm going to record another episode. I'm hoping this week. It's going to be with my husband. So it depends on his schedule.
Right.
And then I've got another one scheduled for the end of the month. So I want to get ideally 4 interviews in the can and then start releasing in November.
Have you come up with a name for it yet?
I have. So So it's not that it's controversial, but it can be slightly misleading. But I wanted to call it the Oral Sessions. And a lot of people, can maybe misconstrue my idea with that, which is fine. I mean, it's going to be a sassy, cheeky little show anyways. But it's not about that. It's about the oral conversation.
Is that breaking news or is that out there?
No, it's not out there. I've never said that before. So
okay, great.
News. Breaking news.
You can decide whether you want me to break that or you can break it. But I have a feeling that it would be a lot more impactful coming from you, but I'll take it. All right. So I know you got to go. So I just, a couple of things before we jam out. So if you, what is going to wrestling for 1 minute? What is one match? And you have to eliminate your husband's matches here for a minute.
Yeah,
what is one match if you were stuck on an island that you could watch over and over again for the rest of your life?
Easy. The Hollywood Backlot Brawl, Gold Dust and Roddy Piper.
That was a match, wasn't it?
My favorite wrestling match. Yep, definitely that.
All time. And go-to record on that island?
Ooh, gosh. Despite its increasing popularity these days, I would have to say Fleetwood Mac Rumors.
Well, it is very popular right now, but it should be too.
It should be. It's actually blowing my mind that there's so many people that have never heard the song Dreams.
Well,
crazy.
That's the new world we're in. There's stuff re-breaking and stuff, know, jumping back on the charts. And go to movie on that island.
Oh, go-to movie. Gosh, You've Got Mail.
Wow. All right. Just because you like the way it was written, you just like the flow. You're on an island for the rest of your life. Okay.
Yep. Meg Ryan and Tom Hanks together are absolutely magical. Anytime You've Got Mail is on TV, I will watch it. That's like that movie that like I love to put it on. If it's on TV, I'll watch it. Ooh, I would also give a close second to Uncle Buck. I love Uncle Buck.
Come on. Of course.
So good.
Molly Russell's Wart.
Yeah. What a great,
got to stick together. You got to watch it all the time.
Beyond that, definitely.
You got to watch it all the time. So Renee, man, I'm so thankful for you coming on here and making some time. I'm excited for your new venture that you got coming out. I can't wait to watch, listen, everything that goes with it. Not that I have to tell anyone where to find you online because you've got one of the funniest and busiest social networks that I've seen, but let's remind everybody where they can find you online.
Yeah, you guys can follow me on Twitter and Instagram at Renee Paquette.
Excellent. This has been the life so far of Renee Paquette, and I can't thank you enough for jumping on with me this week, and all the best for you down the road here.
Thank you so much. Hopefully we can do another check-in in like 5 years and see what's happened.
Awesome. I'm sure it'll be, hopefully I'll have 85 more listeners and we'll, and you'll have millions and it'll be a great crossover podcast. Thanks, Renee.
Thank you.